Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 48. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us on this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Happy early Thanksgiving to you and yours. And Dave, we have a quarterback change, not just on the horizon, but in reality. Steelers have made a quarterback change. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely they have. We're going to go into Thanksgiving here with not only the Steelers in the number 6 seed in the AFC, but a new quarterback in tow to boot. And the writing was on the wall which way Mike, who Mike Tomlin would give the rose to. You don't watch those shows, do you?
Oh, I have a guilty pleasure for The Bachelor, Bachelorette.
You do?
I know.
Oh, don't tell. Do you want me to edit this out?
You really should, because I know no one's ever going to take you seriously again.
No.
But it's terrible TV, but I can't look away from it.
Oh, how long have you? Oh no, tell me it's not. I'm not gonna. Oh Lord.
I know.
Okay, I just threw that out there kind of as a joke. I didn't know it was gonna hit home there. Oh Lord.
No,
Okay.
You're never gonna look at me the same way. I know.
Yeah, let me gather myself here. All right, Mike Tomlin did indeed announce the quarterback change on. Oh Lord, I'm shook up. It's almost like I'm watching David DeCastro pull. I got this tingly feeling all inside now. No, Mike Tomlin didn't make the change. He did announce that Devlin Hodges would be the team's quarterback. He's a wordsmith, right? I mean, he was good with kind of phrasing and framing this change, kind of not painting himself in a corner and all like that. But it's the right decision. One thing that we didn't mention the other day is the Steelers are playing at home too. And the first incomplete had Mason been named the starter and come out and thrown an incomplete pass right out of the chute, he was going to get booed. All of this combined with what I had said about, just him being in a fragile state, plus him playing bad. I mean, that's the first and foremost thing here. Mm-hmm. It was the right decision for him to make. Now, here's my only fear now is, give Devlin Hodges the same, afford him the same kind of patience that you did with Mason. Right. If Devlin Hodges comes out and throws an interception in the first quarter, and then or two, don't go out there with a quick hook on him. Because then you're gonna have both these kids looking up over their shoulder there. But I don't think either of us were really surprised the way that what Mike Tomlin decided there. There's probably gonna be a little controversy with his reasoning kind of behind it. The quote that seems to be making the most circulating the most about he didn't kill us. That's probably not the best way to frame that, but that's going to be the way that this thing is narrated and set up right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, a couple thoughts. First of all, it's funny they make the connection. They're fighting for the 6th seed. They're turning to number 6 with Duck Hodges to hold on to that spot or hopefully improve it. But I just keep it really simple. I understand what you're saying about the playing at home and Rudolph potentially getting booed and the Browns rematch, but the bottom line is Hodges has been playing better, and you go with a better quarterback, the guy that gives you the better chance to win right now. All the rest of the factors don't matter. They're all secondary to me. So that's a decision that you make. And you're right. I think that you can't have a short leash on Duck Hodges. You got to let him go out there and play. He's probably going to make some mistakes. That's going to be typical of a young quarterback and a guy that kind of gets really excited in the moment, as he admitted to last week after the touchdown to James Washington. But he's going to be your guy. You got to have confidence in him and let him be the guy going forward. So that's my approach to this one.
I tell you, when going back, then we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about kind of the All-22 and what we observed in that. But when you go back through that and you look at that final throw that he made, talking about Mason Rudolph, I can kind of forgive really a lot of what happened in that game up until that point. But that final throw that he grounded out the shortstop on.
Play for the Pirates, maybe.
Yeah. that was as clear of a sign, and really, it's hard to tell from the TV tape, but when you get the end zone view of that and look at the way that whole play progressed, his mechanics, everything that he did on that play, that was a sign of a kid with no confidence, and really unsure of himself, of what he wanted to do with the football on that play. That throw was there. That throw just needs to be drilled right in the numbers right there. Mm-hmm. And if you do, he continues on. Maybe. But that was, of course, with that being a third down, you're walking off the field, and really Deontay Johnson looks frustrated at that point too. That throw alone was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. Even if he oversails him, I don't know if Tomlin maybe makes a change there. But everything about that throw just gave you the sense that this kid's not in this game right now.
Right. Yep. That summed up the game. It summed up the last 2 weeks for Rudolph. And to go back, because as you said, the Tomlin comment of, Duck didn't kill us comment, is getting a lot of play on social media. I think that's, and I'm betting you would agree, that's grossly taken out of context. Tomlin used that phrase back after the Chargers game and evaluating Hodges. Tomlin was asked about that phrase in the question leading up to his answer, so he was just kind of playing off of that. That wasn't an organic thing that he said as some sort of veiled shot at Mason Rudolph, as the internet's trying to run with here. That was just Tomlin using the phrase he'd used before earlier in the season and then using it in response to the question. So just for people that didn't hear it in the whole exchange and just saw either this little snippet or just saw the text of it, I think there's some context that's missing there that's really critical.
And quite honestly, he doesn't know how this thing's going to go, but, he keep going back to saying that Hodges provided the spark when he came into the game, which he did. The two plays, two passes in, you're in the end zone. The team's excited. The sideline's excited. The offense is excited at that point. But once again, this is a young quarterback that's got 42, 43 dropbacks, 40 pass attempts there. You've only worked with him one full week as a starter in the past, and that was ahead of the game against the Chargers, in a game that you obviously did your best to try to protect him in. A lot of short passes in that game. And now he'll get it. He was asked about what a full week of reps might do for Devlin Hodges in practice this week. He pretty much said he didn't know. One of the media members said, "Well, what skill set and what things has he showed you since you kept him?" And Mike Tomlin said, "We didn't keep him."
That made me laugh. Yeah.
This is a young quarterback that wasn't even on the 53-man roster, wasn't on anybody's roster at the start of the regular season there. So, but look, more than anything, Rudolph needs time to reset or do whatever. So in the meantime, it's Hodges. If he wins, he moves on to the next Rose round. But at least now you can look. This has always been an evaluation period throughout this since Ben went down. So now, instead of getting to evaluate one quarterback, you're going to get however many games now to evaluate Devlin Hodges here. And it starts Sunday against Cleveland, and barring him throwing 5 interceptions, I would expect him to play the full game.
I do too. And again, the way you win hasn't changed. Again, I think Hodges gives you a better chance to Rudolph right now, but it's still going to be defensively driven. It's going to be about better situational football. The offense doing just enough. So you can't go out there and expect Hodges to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and no picks. He's going to make maybe a couple plays, 2 or 3 ones that you need in the game, and that's how you're going to win this one. So, again, I don't know if there's a lot to talk about specifically with the quarterback change because, A, it was all expected, all desired, and Rudolph just hasn't been playing well. There isn't really a whole lot of controversy there. I think it was a pretty easy decision to make based on recent performance. But you're right to what you said earlier, Dave. It's been a crazy journey for Duck Hodges. I hope he writes a book someday because, 3-4 months ago, he was adding the XFL to go sign him and play in that league. And now he's been named the starter for this Sunday in a playoff race. So it's been a wild journey for Duck Hodges.
What do you suppose Kevin Colbert said to Mason Rudolph at the end of that game on the sideline there?
Hopefully just keep your chin up, we'll get through this. I mean, I don't know. I just hope it was just a comforting thing. I mean, I don't know what you can say to really provide comfort when he's playing as poorly as he has, but hopefully you just kind of put your arm around him and say, we're going to get through this.
And Tomlin tried his best to say, to go over kind of the Mason Rudolph switch. He says it goes beyond just Mason and his performance. He's been in and out of the lineup. Some running backs and offensive linemen have been in and out of the lineup. We missed some guys, receivers specifically in the last game, the combination of playing without James Conner and Juju, and so maybe some of those negative things have worn away elements of Mason's play. He hadn't protected the ball recently like he did at the early portions of his participation. I've got a lot of patience. It sounds like George, you don't watch Seinfeld, do you? George Costanza's dad at the Thanksgiving. I got a lot of patience for you guys, but one of the things we need to do is take care of the ball, and those are some of the reasons why we have Devlin gave Devlin an opportunity in Cincy. Once given that opportunity, he took care of the ball and provided a spark. So we just thought it was reasonable as we prepare this week to allow him to continue. He says it means nothing about our intended plans for the foreseeable future or the trajectory of Mason's career or what have you. We're just not at that we're just not of that mentality. We're not in a position to be of that mentality. We're putting pieces together on a week-by-week basis because of the adversity that the game presents. In so many words, he left it open for him to make a switch back, but one would have to think that Devlin Hodges would have to have a couple of bumpy points in the road here. Once again, my biggest fear here at this point now is you have pulled the plug on Mason. You might as well use this time to properly evaluate Devlin Hodges as well too. So you can't have him looking over his shoulder either. If you get in a position where you're doing that, then you're gonna have both these guys looking up over their shoulder, and you're in a position now where there's 5 games left in the season. You're right in this thing. I mean, obviously you control your own destiny right now. So, and I understand you got to do whatever it takes to win a ball game, and that's going to rely probably a lot on the defense. I don't know about how optimistic you are about seeing a bunch of 75-yard drives here. But if they do get in a situation where they get those short fields or whatnot, they've got to maximize those, and that way they can get in a situation where they can put that running game back to work in the fourth quarter and get out of stadiums with a win, as Mike Tomlin likes to say.
Sure, you want to make life easy on your young quarterback, regardless of who it was, whether it was Rudolph or Hodges. You want to have a strong run game. You want to play good defense, create short fields, create takeaways, maybe get a defensive touchdown. All those things are going to be helpful. But again, the bottom line is, and I don't think it's a radical thought, obviously, but just Hodges, it gives you the best chance to win right now. And you need wins more than anything. You're in a playoff race. We're beyond the evaluation stage. We're not in the wait-and-see mode. You're in win now, try to claw your way in the playoffs mode, and you got to do whatever it takes to do that. And last week it meant benching Rudolph, which was the right decision, and this week it means starting Hodges, which is the right decision.
What do you dislike about his game the most?
Well, I guess we'll talk about it a little bit later with the All-22. What I've seen so far, and he talked about it after the game on Sunday, was that he was a little too anxious, a little too jittery, leaving the pocket when he could have stepped up and climbed and caused him to miss some open throws and caused him to take away half the field and throw on the run, and really didn't do anything on some of those throws where he tried to escape outside the pocket. So I just want to see him be a little more calm, be able to climb the pocket, and just be a little less frenetic than what he was on Sunday.
That's the biggest thing that stuck out to me, especially on that sack by that sack later on.
See, the sacks, I didn't think the sack was the issue. I thought that was fine. I thought the other plays, though, were more egregious of him leaving. He didn't leave the pocket on the sack, I didn't think.
No, it's that deep drop and him being able to step up is what I was talking about.
Yeah, but his drop was fine. Villanueva got beat. I mean, he still got beat. It really didn't have anything to do with the drop. Even if Hodges steps up, Dunlap's going to be able to converge on him. But the drop,
I'm not so sure. He had a couple yards to step up. That's about 11-yard drop right there. So
no, it was about 9, and 9 is about the standard drop on that 7-step drop off play action. I saw Rudolph I went back and watched it at Rudolph against the Rams and take a 9-yard drop there on play action. So the drop was fine. I mean, he could have maybe climbed, but I thought Villanueva got beat. But I mean, there were other plays where he clearly like left and abandoned the pocket and was scrambling to his right and going backwards. That took away half the field, limited his options, and plays that you just didn't have to leave the pocket in that moment.
Would like to see him at times, maneuver in the pocket better, as I said, up.
Right.
And I still think you're wrong on that one, but we'll move on.
Well, Villanueva missed the chop on that play, and once he misses the chop, he's screwed.
No, he was beat, but I mean, a quarterback can help protect the edge a little bit sometimes, better in that situation.
All right, fair enough. We'll talk about him a little bit later in the All-22. Let's go back to Tomlin and the injury report. Connor, very unlikely to play. Tomlin kept everything vague. He didn't really commit to anything injury report-wise in his Tuesday press conference, but based on what James Conner said in his 93.7 The Fan interview that he does each week, very unlikely to play. Juju seems up in the air. TJ Watt seems good to go, and Artie Burns, again, seems up in the air. Tomlin pretty vague with the injury report yesterday.
Look, Juju's going to be the name to watch here. That's it. James Conner isn't going to. I will be absolutely shocked if James Conner plays, especially judging by what he had said the other night on the radio. He just has got to strengthen that thing. He tried to come back after a 2-game absence the last time. It was, he injured in Miami, then missed the next 2 games there, and then came back on a Thursday. He wasn't right from the get-go even then. He knew he came back too early. He doesn't want to make that, and it sounds like he's at that kind of delicate stage right now where quite possibly he could need surgery. He's right there on kind of that on that breaking point right there. So he's got to be careful with this thing, and I think they will be careful. I'll be surprised if he even talked about being careful and not being out there in any form of even kind of the walkthrough kind of scenarios because of all the bumping around and sometimes the mistakes happen and all like that. He not even want to get bumped around that way. So I would expect him not to practice this week. I expect him to be ruled doubtful or out come the Friday injury report there. Juju, I don't have a clue. Now, Mike Tomlin only mentioned his knee, did not mention the concussion yesterday, which I guess that's a positive. We'll have to see if the injury report matches up with that. One would hope that he's potentially out of concussion protocol now, and it's just the knee that he's dealing with. So we'll have to wait there. The only other guy that Mike Tomlin didn't have a lot of info on was Artie Burns, who, of course, is a backup there, so probably not too many people listening to this are overly concerned when it comes to Artie Burns. And, on top of it, Justin Lane did a good job, I thought, in helping out on special teams. So not a huge loss outside of maybe some experience if you got in a situation where you needed a backup cornerback on the field. But, of course, you got Cameron Sutton and all as far as that. So, really, and Al Villanueva took kind of a tumble during that game against the Bengals, too, and kind of laid on the ground awkwardly after a cut block situation there, but he obviously powered through that. I can't think of anybody else. T.J. Watt came out that game with a bone bruise, but he of course finished, and Mike Tomlin gave the old bumps and bruises things associated with play coming out of that game there. So hopefully that's it, but Juju was spotted this morning with a sizable brace on his left knee, so doesn't look like a guy that's going to practice according to the Trib.
Yeah, that's Chris Adamski. I was actually just going to bring that one up, so we're on the same page there. So Juju, yeah, very questionable for him. Connor almost certainly won't play, and I think everybody else, Burns, I guess it's 50-50. Everyone else should be good to go. So yeah, I guess it could be a lot worse health-wise. So what else from Tomlin kind of stuck out to you yesterday at his press conference?
Let's see here. What else was there? Him talking about the not fully knowing Deion Kane and Kerrith Whyte and how, ways that they could potentially use them. He did a great job of making sure he was praising Benny Snell and saying that, look, we didn't know going into that game what we were going to get out of Benny Snell, how many reps we could get out of him. But I don't know that I saw him getting stronger. I just thought he was strong all week. I was looking for signs of maybe of something other than that, and I never saw it. So that's a good note, especially when it comes to Benny Snell and Benny Snell's conditioning when it comes to Benny Snell football. And look, I thought Benny ran good in that game.
Yeah, no, the more I reflect on this performance, the more impressed I am by Benny Snell. This is a guy who never was hurt in college. 39 games played at Kentucky, never missed time. He comes to the NFL, basically experiences his first injury at the college/NFL level, misses 3 weeks, comes back in a really critical spot with his run games dying for somebody to get in there and make some sort of impact. You don't know how he's going to respond with the time off, his level of conditioning, and things like that. And he goes out there and carries the ball 21 times, has a great performance, and then plays a ton on special teams too. He plays 21 snaps, I think, on special teams. 21 carries, 21 snaps on special teams. And it's funny, I don't know there were many starting running backs Sunday that were also starting on the kick coverage and the punt coverage team, but Benny Snell was one of them, for better or for worse. So a guy that was able to be attentive to detail on special teams in addition to his offensive duties, I think that's really impressive.
It was, but here's the thing now, and if indeed James Conner does not play against the Browns, I would hope. How about give Benny Snell maybe a week off on the special teams thing? I'm glad that he did it. It showed a tremendous amount of prep. We know he can do it. We know he can function in special teams. But if he's going to carry, look, this is a huge game. Like it or not, against the Browns. It's pretty much, it's almost got a winner takes, or a winner moves on to the next round kind of feel to it. Obviously both teams won't be mathematically eliminated should they lose. The Browns, though, have a lot more to lose. It feels like if the Browns lose this game, that's it for them. It almost feels like they have to win out here. The Steelers, although you want them to win this game, if they did lose it, they would probably have to run the table there, but I don't think it's a doomsday loss for them. But all that said, I want as many, especially in the backfield there. I want all hands on deck, and I don't want those guys to be distracted with anything else. Throw somebody else out there to absorb Benny Snell's special team snaps.
Yeah, I know it's tough because options are limited, especially on the punt team. You lost, Rosie Nix, and you've had some other guys back there, Sean Davis, that aren't available anymore. They did take Snell off midway through the game on the kick coverage team, replaced him with Cam Kelly. So, that was a logical and smart decision. I want to see Vince Williams. Someone made a good point at Mike Tomlin yesterday. Vince Williams, he's not playing much on defense. He didn't play a single special team snaps on Sunday with all the injuries and obviously his pedigree on there. He should be out there. So the fact that he isn't is a questionable decision.
Let's see what else stuck out. Him talking about, basically Tomlin's done his best, and I thought he did a good job of downplaying this rematch about against the Browns, and is he worried about it going in the wrong direction? And I got to be honest, I was asked this yesterday on a radio interview as well, too. I'm not overly concerned about it going in a bad direction personally. Alex, look, there's and it stems back to there is a lot riding on this game. If any team's going to screw up here and take this thing back over on the wrong side of the line, again, I would expect it to be the Browns. And maybe Sheldon Richardson or Ogunjobi or whatnot, one of those two guys. I don't feel like the Steelers are going into this game as this being any sort of kind of a payback game. By now they should know what's at stake here. Look, Rudolph's not playing in this game. Pouncey's not playing in this game. Garrett's not playing in this game. There's no reason to continue any of this nonsense really on both sides of the football. And I thought Tomlin did a great job of kind of tamping that down.
Agreed. The Steelers want payback. You know how to get payback? You get the win. You knock the Browns out of the playoffs, basically, and end their season, and you go one step closer to securing a playoff spot. That's your payback. Nothing to do with the off the field or the scrum or anything like that. I think players have to know and recognize, and I'm sure that they will. At least I hope that they will, that anything extracurricular is going to hurt your chances of winning, only going to help their chances of winning, and ultimately that would be the big payback if the Steelers beat the Browns.
He was asked, quote unquote, have you heard from anybody in the NFL about how they want to see the game played out Sunday, what they're willing to tolerate and not tolerate? He goes, I have not, and I'm not looking for anything. We're playing and playing to win. Part of playing to win is playing hard and smart, not beating yourself. So we're going to paint inside those bright lines, I promise you.
And for the record, the report that Browns fans can't wear Myles Garrett jerseys into the stadium is false, according to Burt Lott. So dismiss that false report.
Yeah, I don't know why. That don't make sense. Why would you? That's just silly. But in a word. What else do we have coming out of that? How do you make sure? I mean, you knew what his response was going to be when he said, on the heels of him saying, Duck not killing us. He was asked, how do you make sure Baker Mayfield doesn't kill you? I thought his response was, as you would expect, you just gotta keep him inside the pocket, and that's obviously something the Steelers failed to do or didn't do enough of in that game a couple of weeks ago there, especially early on in that game. They had a couple of chances to get Baker Mayfield on the ground. He extended the play and made plays in doing so. Obviously, the big third down early in the game and on the touchdown to the tight end as well, too. Really good job of him maneuvering the pocket on there. And this is look, we know how good the Steelers pass rush is. They pretty much, that was on display against the Browns the first time they played. Now you just got to do a little bit better job of finishing in this game. If they do, I think they could potentially hold the Browns, down under that, if they don't turn the football over, they can hold the Browns under that 21-point number this time.
Right, that's definitely the goal. Tomlin said offense didn't miss a beat with B.J. Finney under center. I agree. I thought Finney played reasonably well. I mean, he had a tough matchup with Geno Atkins. He can get overpowered a little bit more than Marquise Pouncey, but a little less effective against some of these bull rushes. The snaps were a little off too, but overall, I mean, to come in, to play center, a position he hasn't played a ton of, at least not in the NFL, to do it with two young quarterbacks mid-game like that, to not have any botched or really super bobbled exchanges that would have killed the play. I'm pretty happy with the job Finney did stepping up for Pouncey.
Yeah, I think overall, if you look at the totality of it, it was fine. He did, Billings got him on the one, but if Mason does a better job of feeling that coming into his lap, then that's not a sack,
Right.
In that instance, or really him just kind of spilling the chili pot at the end. And don't be distracted by Zach Banner running around on that play. By the way.
Can we talk about that for like an hour? I almost let off with that. I had to show some restraint. Zach Banner ran a route. It was amazing. They got to throw him the ball.
And that was on the sack by Billings. By the way, it's hard not to get distracted about. He rounded that off. Somebody needs to tell him he rounded that off a little bit too much.
No, that's a speed out. That's a good speed out. That head turning around. That was nice.
You got to give a little nod up in there. Maybe he would have a quarter yard of separation.
I put together a collection of offensive linemen who have run routes for the Steelers in recent years. We got Mike Adams, we got Chris Hubbard, Gerald Hawkins. Villanueva had a touchdown catch, but that was on a fake field goal, so I don't count that the same. Banner. I wonder who the best route runner of those guys. Gerald Hawkins, I think, had a little speed. I might give him the edge.
I don't want to see three tight ends go out like that anymore. There are several little Easter eggs, I think, in that one sack there. If you look at it from the end zone view there, but what else do we have? Finney overall, I thought. I mean, look, it wasn't a Pro Bowl performance, but it was good enough, and he's going to get another test this week against Sheldon Richardson and Larry Ogunjobi. So if he can make it through this one, he might make himself a little bit of money here late in the season there, because obviously Marquise Pouncey will be expected to be back the following week.
Here's the quote from Tomlin on Finney. I just want to say that because we don't hear about B.J. Finney too much, but Tomlin said of his play, quote, "Man, Finney always answers the bell when called upon. He's just one of those guys that makes the catchphrase. His standard is the standard of reality, whether it's at center or a guard. Over the course of his time here, when called upon, man, we don't miss a beat," and such was the case on Sunday. So, while it wasn't the most sparkling performance, again, the ability to just plug and play, you feel confident to do that with young quarterbacks, not have any major mistakes, I think is a testament to his preparedness and his professionalism.
What else do we have here?
I think about it for me on Tomlin. Yeah, that was about it. I think that caught my eye.
All right, so we'll watch for Juju Smith-Schuster on the injury report. I think that's the big name or the big news as we go into Wednesday here, but it certainly doesn't sound like he's going to play. And that will be a second game in a row if indeed he doesn't play. Shall we? Where do you want to go into now? More into the All-22 or what?
Yeah, that's where I was going to go, and I guess I'll circle back to Duck Hodges here. I know we talked about it a short time ago, but just, again, your overall impressions of Hodges coming in for Rudolph on Sunday.
I kind of like the way, and you go back and you look at a couple throws. Go back and look at the throw that Ben made a couple years ago against the Packers, kind of late in the game, over to the sideline.
Wait, which one? The one to AB?
Yeah, to AB.
Okay.
How Ben kind of avoids pressure, leaks out a little bit to the right, it's kind of fading away a little bit, and then makes that throw over there. You see Devlin Hodges kind of do some things similar to that. Kind of patience, kind of drift a little bit and make some throws. You go back to the preseason touchdown to, who was it? Tevin Jones over on the left side, a very decent example of that. Someone sent me an email saying, "Oh, go look at Devlin Hodges' stats, regular season stats with him outside the pocket. He's really lighting it up." No, not really. He's like 1 of 5 for 13 yards in those instances. The one thing that we haven't seen him do yet, even though he has done a good job of avoiding pressures, we haven't seen him make a play outside the pocket yet. Close to one maybe with him on kind of design, which I really would like to see them do once or twice against Cleveland, is kind of design roll him out on, I don't know if you remember the quick pitch and catch to Vance McDonald over on the left side against the Ravens there. I think that's something that you can do there. On the one rollout inside the red zone against the Bengals kind of later in the game, he had a chance to get it to McDonald back in the middle of the field, but I think that was a 3rd and goal situation. So, who knows? It's probably going to be short of the goal line. He was probably wanting to go to make sure he threw the ball into the end zone on that play, and he just got too far outside the pocket and just had to throw that one away.
Yeah, you don't want to take the turnover there. You don't want to risk it at all. I mean, people can say throwing it away was a bad idea. It should have just slid down to kill the clock. I was just fine with him not making a terrible decision that was risking a turnover to get the field goal, because time still wouldn't have been that big of a factor. Even if he slid, there'd been about 3 minutes left in a one-score game, since he wouldn't have been that affected by time, even if he had killed the clock another 30 or so seconds. I agree that he hasn't made tangible plays so far outside the pocket, but obviously he's a much more mobile quarterback. He can't extend plays with his legs. He ran on a 3rd down, almost picked up the 1st down, just fell a couple yards short. And then just watching him in training camp in the preseason, this is a decently mobile guy, much more mobile than Mason Rudolph, and hopefully can extend the play better than what Rudolph was unable to do.
The one thing that I keep going back to one of the plays that he made was in the game against the Ravens, that quick timing out to Deontay, where he got that ball out right away, right as he's coming out of the break there. So that's I think that plays into his strength, kind of working the sidelines there. In some of those outs, we saw a lot during that one preseason game where he got a lot of the work there in that game of him doing a good job of throwing out. Most of his throws was outside the numbers there. So I would suspect that maybe we'll see a lot of that in this game as well too. And once again, he had the accuracy in that game. He would have even completed more passes in that preseason game had the wide receivers caught the football.
Yeah, his overall placement, just looking at Sunday's game, I thought was good. I think it's kind of been a strength of his, even on some difficult throws outside the numbers. I think he's got good timing. I think he's got a good rhythm, and again, just good placement overall. Obviously, the touchdown to James Washington was the big play, and yes, got to give Washington a lot of props there for the run after catch, but I thought Hodges did a really nice job of throwing him open. And I might do a film study on this, Dave. That looked like an old play the Steelers had run under Todd Haley. It was in the Z post, and I'll have to go back through this one a little bit closer. They ran that concept several times on Sunday, including the touchdown, 79 yards to Washington. But that was, remember the AB touchdown against the Broncos in 2015 in that comeback game that Ben hit AB late in that one to win it? Do you remember that one?
I'm trying to pull up.
Against Chris Harris, a little skinny post.
Yeah. I remember it now.
That was the same concept that they ran on the Washington touchdown, or very, very similar to it. That easy post, which was a staple under Haley. But I saw it again on Sunday. I don't know if that was something Where that came from again, if that was something that they revived, because I hadn't seen that play in a long time. So they ran it 4 or 5 times, I think, against the Bengals, and obviously it worked really big with the touchdown to Washington. So a really interesting concept, a really good concept.
I think on one of those maybe was the one where Washington bent that thing back maybe inside a little bit too quickly. Mm-hmm. I think Mason was expecting him to elongate that route out down into the middle of the field.
Yeah, a couple missed chances for Washington. The one that missed them by about a step in front, and the other one, which should have been a touchdown, the one you're referencing, where Washington tried to run basically the post to the far goal post, like a kind of true post route, where Rudolph thought he was going to run the skinny post to the near goal post, and miscommunication. That should have been 6, and it wasn't. I mean, it was close, but obviously close isn't going to count in the NFL. So just those things were off by a little bit, where Hodges, on the other hand, was able to convert and hit Washington.
Going back and looking at that again, I couldn't really tell just by the X's and O's graphic, but once I got the all 22, originally it kind of looked like maybe it was inverted cover 2, but I think it's more of a cover 3 in that situation. Bates has had a bad habit of kind of Jesse Bates of trying to jump down into the middle of the field, and I think he just guessed wrong in the situation of and look, they had pretty decent, I thought, bracket coverage on McDonald in the middle of the field anyway. I'm guessing Bates was thinking there's no way this kid's going to go down deep down the middle of the field on this, and he probably tried to cheat a little bit, seeing how Washington had started off that route, bending it way out to the outside. Probably didn't think he was going to bend that thing back on a deep post there, but Bates definitely kind of flat-footing that at around where the marker was, helped in that situation there, because both those safeties or both those corners on the outside had a long way to kind of converge in the middle of the field. So props for him seeing it and seeing that safety basically flat-footed at the marker and basically go right over the top of him.
And props to the offensive line for giving Hodges a really clean pocket on that play. Go back and look at that one if you.
Yeah, I saw it. It was a nice. I mean, he's got nothing but green grass in front of him there.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have taken off if he wanted to.
I'm glad he didn't, because that was Washington was open. But yeah, to the negatives again. We talked about earlier, him drifting out of the pocket, bailing on some clean pockets, and rolling out when he didn't have to. Which again, he admitted after the game that he got over anxious and made some mistakes out there. So it's good that he's recognizing that. Hopefully he can correct it, but you want to see him hang in the pocket and not leave them so early, because when you roll out, you're throwing on the run, you lose your accuracy again, you're throwing half field, because now you can't, if you're rolling to your right, you can't throw to the left side, and that's when you get into trouble, because now you're trying to read the defense, and that's how you get picked off. I think that's what happened against the Ravens, right? And he rolled to his right and got picked off trying to throw across his body, and it was negated by penalty, luckily, but those are the pitfalls of trying to throw on the move.
And he also had that deep ball to Deontay that should have been picked off in that game as well too, and then he had the bad interception against the Chargers. So he's got to pick his spots better. He's not without issue going into this game. I suspect they're not going to, I don't think, handcuff him severely in this game, but I really expect them to try to focus on the run. And if you go back and look at his passing chart against the Chargers there, I would suspect a lot of shorter stuff and him trying to work the sidelines in this game. He's just got to be prudent when he goes downfield in these situations, because he's not afraid to throw it up. I mean, there's one thing he's not afraid to do. He's not afraid to hang it up there, but the throwing across the body like he did against the Ravens, and then the one that probably should have been intercepted against the Ravens deep down the field, and then of course the INT against the Chargers were not great decisions on his part. So he's got to limit those bad decisions. Sometimes it's okay just and I know Mike Tomlin kind of talked about it the other day, and would hope that the throwaways get few and far between, but you much rather would have him do that than to throw one deep down the field and have it picked off.
Sure, you want to take a profit again. The guy's going to make some mistakes. I said it last week. I'll say it again. I think Hodges is a talented player. I said it back in the preseason. He had the talent to be on a roster and be in an organization somewhere, but probably the lore of Duck Hodges is a little bit greater than the actual play of Duck Hodges right now. It's going to be a game that's going to be dominated by a rushing attack and by a defense that has to continue to play well and continue to make big splash plays.
And not that he can't make plays outside the pocket, because if you go back, I mean, Lord knows they've got every touchdown of his at Samford for that final season there. No, it might have been his entire career. No, I think it was his entire career. It's a long watch, but he obviously had some, quite a few red zone touchdown throws outside of the pocket. It's just we haven't seen him make a play yet outside of the pocket, really, other than the rollout, kind of the misdirection against the Ravens and that throw to Vance McDonald, which I want to see that. I want to see them try to get him a little bit on the move in this game.
Yeah, I do too. I think something you really couldn't do much with Rudolph, and you couldn't do much with Ben, but something that you can do with Hodges. I think that's going to tailor it to his strengths. So I'm all for it.
I think the big thing to look at least in this initial game, is how does he do? How does he do with the numbers coming after him? And if I'm the Browns, I'm going after him early. I want to see if I can rattle him a little bit. I want to see if I can get him maybe to vacate the pocket too soon. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm doing early against him. I'm especially if Juju doesn't play. I'm just going to try to lock up those receivers on the outside there. But I'm trying to send the numbers after Hodges early, to see what he's made of, to see what I'm dealing with there.
Yeah, I think they're going to attack it. Steve Wilkes is an aggressive defensive coordinator. I think the Browns have a pretty high blitz rate, so I wouldn't be surprised if they go after him.
And, if he can handle that, superb.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dave, what else from the offense? I know we had talked about the power that they ran. I think the official number is 15 times of their 31 carries on Sunday, and the Cash are doing a great job leading out in front. So I'm all for that. You're probably not going to be able to run that quite as often against Cleveland. Cincinnati, just for whatever reason, it's just more successful against than any other team in football. But, yeah, ride the Castro, ride that run game to victory.
14 times with the Castro, and yes, I would do it, and David DeCastro would remove me from his Christmas card list.
I think he'd be happy. I think he likes getting on the move, running over those DBs.
Yeah, 15 times, 80-something yards with a guard on the move, and 14 of those times, I think, was DeCastro. And, I mean, right out of the chute. Now, look, all of them obviously weren't successful runs, but a lot of them were. And I don't know about you, when watching that first one with Kerrith Whyte, pulling up the end zone view of that, I got kind of tingly there. Not only because of the actual, DeCastro on the move, but if you slow that thing down. It's been a little while since we've seen a running back, A, make somebody miss at the line, and B, get into that, get 5 yards, 3 yards into that second level there and stick that leg in the ground and break an ankle, That's enthralling. I'll sit there and watch that thing 15 times over and over again. I don't know what Kerrith Whyte's going to become, if anything, but it does give him a nice little change of a little bit of change up there with a little bit of speed. You got a guy that opposing defenses don't know too terribly much about. He is a guy that I think that in addition to the power, you could probably get this. I tell you, I know we haven't seen the crack toss in a little bit. But I might break out the crack toss once or twice here with Kerrith Whyte that gets around. It was so good to see a running back read, make a tackle miss, and then put a leg in the ground at the second level and right out of the chute on the power. I thought Benny Snell did a great job with the pulling guards as well. So to me, that's your 1-2 punch there. I don't care if Jalen Samuels gets in any work against the Browns or not. And this is going to be a little bit of a different dynamic when it comes to the Steelers running game against the Browns this time, because you go back just a couple of weeks ago, Alex, your running backs were an injured James Conner for a quarter. Jalen Samuels really kind of coming off of a knee injury. Trey Edmonds, and
Tony Brooks James.
Tony Brooks James is no longer on the roster. So you got two guys that you can throw at the Browns who they didn't see the last time, and you tried to run the football early in that game, and you weren't successful in that game. And how many total? I think I deleted. I think it's in my Twitter feed there of what they running backs had. I think a combined 14 carries in that game against the Browns. That's obviously not enough, and they didn't do a good job of establishing that run early, and I think that's going to play a big point in this game. If they can establish the run successfully, like I like to say early in games against the Browns, I think it'll go a long way in helping Hodges, and I think it'll set up a situation where maybe you can run late and run successfully late.
I agree. I think that's a fantastic point to say that, you have Snell, you have White Jr., two guys that you didn't have 2 weeks ago against the Browns that can hopefully kind of re-energize this run game. And yeah, that run by White was fantastic, the ability to create on his own, because that was not a particularly well-blocked play. The safety came down. Looked like that could have been an easy 1 or 2 yard gain.
Yeah, he had to make he had to make a read right out of the chute there, and he made the right one. He made the guy miss, and that was impressive.
And just to see the reaction from the bench and the sideline of that play, Cam Hayward, Vince Williams, those guys coming over, I don't know if they were excited just about a 21-yard gain or if they didn't realize a running back could run that fast. Like, we haven't seen a running back with that speed in this backfield in a long time. It's been one of the criticisms, I think, where they've become too hyper-focused on the big 225-pound plotters and, these really big backs and no one that has a kind of a different element and component to their game. So I think White offers that. And yeah, on the 4 carries he had that were power runs on Sunday, he ran for 21, 6, 16, and then 1 negative 1 yard rush with 2 first downs. So power was the key to the Steelers run game on Sunday.
3 of their 4 longest runs in that game had a guard on the move.
Yeah, including the clinching one, the Benny Snell one, the ice the game.
Right. Now and I kind of threw some bait out there on Twitter last night.
Yeah, I didn't know what you were getting at with this. I was confused.
Yeah, I just was wanting. Someone had asked me how many running back carries they've had combined, so I threw that up there, and I decided to put the W or the L's after them there. But don't take the bait there in that situation because over someone say, oh, so the magic number is run the football 21 times with your running backs and you get the W. Well, it's as you've heard me say time and time again. Over the years on this show and on Twitter as well. Hopefully, if you've been paying attention, it's not the overall numbers because it's how you get to the numbers that really matter there. Yes, they have lost every game this year where the running backs have combined for less than 21 carries. But if you go back and look at the wins, they ran successful or successful, more successful early in those games, and they also had a lead in those games, which allowed them to run later in those games and run more successful. If you go back to and look at the game against the 49ers there in what week was that? 3. They had 16 combined running back runs in that game. I guarantee you that number would have been a lot higher had James Conner held on to that football later in that game.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that would have turned the L into the W because you probably come close to hitting. I don't know. Would they have had 5 more running back runs in that game, Alex? Had James Conner held on to that football?
I think it's likely.
So once again, and looking at the loss, the loss to the Ravens in overtime. How many running back carries are you going to get in that game if Juju Smith-Schuster does not fumble that football? At least 3, right? Maybe 2 or 3?
Yeah, a couple more.
Because you had Hodges at quarterback, you probably wanted to get a few more yards in those situations there. And obviously, if you look at the game against the Browns where they only had combined 14 running back carries, you lost one of your you lost your starter early in James Conner. You knew Tony Brooks-James wasn't going to carry more than just whatever he carried once or twice in that game. Edmonds is just a practice squad guy, and plus you were down in that game most of the game as well too, especially in the second half. So that does not that does not set up a situation where you're going to run the football there. So, yeah, it's easy to look at these numbers and say, oh, well, just run the football 21 times or more and you're going to get a win. Well, it's just not as easy as that. You got to run successful early in the games. And I think the thing, too, that stuck out in the game against the Bengals when looking more at kind of the stat connotations here was 1st and 10. You've heard me harp on 1st and 10 for quite a while. They were better this go around on 1st and 10, something to the tune of like 37% success rate on 1st and 10. That's better than what it's been, and I'll give them a golf clap on that. But obviously, you want that to be a little bit higher. Just look what the Browns did this past week against the Dolphins there on 1st and 10. Way up in the 40% successful 1st and 10 rate, and a lot of those were runs.
What is the number they need to hit? Is it 45%, 50%? What is your target goal for success rate?
On 1st and 10, I'd definitely like to see that thing no lower than 45%. Okay. Especially when it comes to me, that's remarkable. They're going to be fine, I think, if they hit that 45% success rate on 1st and 10. And basically, 1st and 10, I'll boil it down this way: give me 4 yards on 1st and 10. However you want to do it, I think that's the easy way. There's a lot of the nerds are going back and forth at what makes a successful play. If you look at the article that on Football Perspective, most recently or last year, I think by who is it, Chase Stewart. I kind of like the way he's got that broken down. Just give me a run. Give me 40% on 1st and 10. And I'm happy, which is 4 yards. Any 6-yard play, regardless, should be listed as a successful play, even if it's 3rd and 17. I know technically that's not, but I mean, you can't penalize the play result because of the down and distance. And additionally, 50% on 2nd down, then obviously 3rd or 4th down, getting 100% of the yardage constitutes a successful play. I kind of like the way he's got that set up. It gives a little bit of leeway there instead of that 4.5 yards that we've seen kind of been the standard with like Football Outsiders in the past there. But you're kind of splitting hairs there, I think. Give me 4 yards on 1st and 10, and I think and do that 50% or almost 50% of the time, good things should happen.
I agree. I would be curious though to know what the numbers would be. What is the Steelers' success rate in their wins, and what is their success rate in the losses, and just to see what the correlation there would be. I'd just be curious about
on 1st and 10.
Yeah, on 1st and 10.
Yeah, I'll have to pull that up. But,
right. Yeah, I'm not saying to do that now, but I'd be curious to know. I mean, you would think that obviously in the wins you'd have a higher success rate, the losses lower success rate. I'd be curious if the numbers would agree with that.
Well, remember they were down there in the 20-something. I mean, they were down there near the bottom of the league for a while, and they're probably still there now when it comes to success rates on 1st and 10, but at least they made a little bit of headway in the first half. And like I said, I think having this different we'll see if this different combo of backs works out. But I mean, people say, well, Randy Fichtner and his play calling on 1st and 10 it's been stinking. It's been predictable. I could line up a series of 6 plays out there for probably most of you, and you probably couldn't. You probably missed more of them than you got right as far as whether it ended up being a run or a pass there. The problem, a lot of the problem has been or a big part of the problem is kind of the quality of the backs that they've had back there. You got to be able to make some people miss at times at the point of attack, and we just haven't seen that this year unless you've had a guy like James Conner or Benny Snell, in the lineup. That's what there are times. That's why there's a lot of running backs who probably have good yards per carry averages out there still on the streets right now. It's because the negative plays involved there, not able to make that first guy miss.
Yep, backs have to create too. To stick with the backs for one last thought of that group, Benny Snell, the second best pass protector on this team. I think you're seeing him in there in some big 3rd down situations, some key situations. It's another reason why you didn't see much of Jalen Samuels nor Trey Edmonds on Sunday. So Benny Snell, I think it's been uncommonly good for a rookie in pass pro.
Did you? I haven't looked. I didn't research this part of it, but what do you know about Kerrith Whyte and pass pro?
I'll have to go back and check my scouting report. Maybe I can do that now quickly. I doubt he did much considering his frame, and he didn't play a lot. He was a rotational guy in college, so he can catch a little bit out of the backfield just on paper. He didn't do that a ton in college either, but it would be very, very minimal. That is my guess.
Right. I mean, someone his size you wouldn't expect, but I mean, I just wonder how he's been in the times that he's, especially maybe at Florida Atlantic when he's been asked to do it.
Here's the note I have in this scouting report. This is back when I wrote this, April of this year. I said, raw in pass protection, willing but struggles with technique and power, tendency to drop his eyes and lunge through blocks. So that's the note I have on his pass pro.
And that's common with those kind of shorter kids,
Mm-hmm. And most rookie running backs in general too. But Snell is an exception, I think, to technique, the willingness. And again, it's something they do rep. You go back to a backs on backers drill. It helps prepare those guys to get ready for those situations in the NFL.
And that's another thing. If I catch White out there in that backfield, if I'm the Browns, if the situation, if the down and distance, calls for it, not a short yardage one, and they got him, I'm going after him. I want to see him. I want to see what he does in those situations there. So
right.
That's another instance where I think the Browns would be wise to test early and often to see how the Steelers handle the numbers.
All right. Anything else from the offense you want to point out going through the All-22?
Didn't really know. Not too. I saw Tevin Jones willing down the field blocking. I like that.
All right. Washington too. That's a good point. Yeah.
Washington, obviously, we've seen that in the past with him on there. I didn't focus too terribly much on Kane on situations such as that. They got to do something to get these tight ends the football out in space a little bit more.
Yeah, it's been a struggle, but I don't think the tight ends have played particularly well either. It feels like.
I remember something. The quick screen over to the right side to Deontay Johnson when Devlin Hodges was in the game. If Devlin gets that out a tick quicker and Sam Hubbard doesn't get a thumb on that, that's one of those plays that you wonder what if.
Right. I almost thought he should have handed that ball off because the box count seemed even, but also if that was complete, that could have been a big play.
Because you had that blocked up with one wide receiver there, and basically you just have I call that really a one on, really a one, not really even a 1-on-2. It becomes a 1-on-1.5 at that point because the safety's going to have to come over and whatnot. And you're going to assume that Deontay's going to beat whatever linebacker comes from the middle of the field over that way on that RPO to defend that. But it's one of those ones that the ball gets out there on her. And that's another thing I think they ought to try to do here when you're talking about having a different quarterback there in Hodges. Get the ball out there. Didn't we talk about wide receiver screens a couple shows ago?
I think so, yeah. They hadn't run many of them, and also they just hadn't run a lot of RPOs. It felt like they were running a lot, but it felt like they were running several RPOs with Hodges in the game. And I don't know if that's because they were trying to keep it simple or they just actually trust him more or what. But, I mean, they ran 3 or 4 with Hodges in less than a half of football, and I don't know if they ran 1 in the first half with Rudolph.
That's what's kind of confused me about how they've kind of handled Rudolph, too, is you would think keep it and that's what I said back, I think, previewing that game, or at least the last 2, is put that guy back in his element, which was running a lot of RPOs at Oklahoma State and go fast. Right. So we don't have to think about it either. I really would. Yeah, you're right. You come out and you run a couple of them with Devlin Hodges. I would like to see more of that too, because if the numbers call for it, you're going to get a situation, I think, where you can have Deontay Johnson out in space. And we saw in his tape at Toledo when they've done the RPO quick screens, and him may be able to make one person miss and go. So that, how many times have we seen AB over the years? You get that ball quick out to him on those 1-on-1, 1-on-2 type situations, and 21 yards later he's in the end zone.
Right. Right.
So those are the kind of things, those run game alternatives. I know people hate, and people are actually probably. I think I saw 1 or 2 tweets at me this past week saying, "Where are the wide receiver screens at?" And
come full circle.
Yeah, here we go. On those types of. But that was one play that stuck out to me that I wondered, oh man, if Hubbard doesn't get a pinky on that one, I wonder what that one turns into.
The last note I have for the offense is with Tevin Jones, and obviously he's not going to play a ton, but still some, especially if Juju's going to miss, which seems more likely than not for this weekend. Obviously he's been in the system for a while now, but we've never actually gotten to see him on all 22 tape before because preseason doesn't offer any all 22. And it surprises me, and maybe it shouldn't be, maybe it shouldn't, but this guy could actually separate a little bit better than what I thought he could. He's actually a pretty good route runner, so that's a guy that has that going for him. He hasn't done a whole lot with it so far, but he's a guy that's actually gotten open and just has been either just not looked at or just missed by Rudolph, who had the bad throw and that could have been his first touchdown on Sunday.
Yeah, look, I mean, there was 2 instances in the red zone. I mean, even though if you look at that, go back and look at the all 22 on the interception there, if he gets that ball out to Tevin as he's sitting down, I think that's 6.
Yeah, well, I think he tried to throw it to Tevin, and it just wasn't open. It wasn't as open as it looked probably at the very, very beginning.
Well, if you look right when, if he gets that out as Tevin's starting to sit down, I think that's 6.
Yeah, I don't know. It was tough. Duck missed him for what would have been a touchdown. Now the progression was going the other way, so it just happened sometimes. But he actually got open in the second half running down the left seam, and I think it would have been 6 if Duck would have spotted him.
And then obviously the other red zone miss to Tevin. That if he gets that ball out a little bit quicker, that might be a touchdown.
Yeah,
too.
And in front because he had to go back for it and had to fight the corner, which is bad ball placement by Rudolph. So those are the thoughts on offense. How about defense? I mean, a lot of the same. I know we've talked about that, but any initial impressions on the defense from the all-22?
Oh wow, just pretty. You hate to see those 50-50 balls. That the one that Edmonds gave up, you hate to see that one happen. A lot of people are complaining, why is Bush on Tyler Boyd in the situation that luckily you got a good result on, but why Devin Bush was on Tyler Boyd in that situation?
Yeah, I think just play action, slot receiver. I obviously I don't know if that was the actual intention or the plan, but when it's play action and guys get sucked up, things get a little crazy sometimes.
Yeah, once again, luckily, good came out of it there. Look, I don't know if people realize how big a play that was.
Yeah, I said on Monday it might be the play that saved their season, honestly, because the Bengals might win that game if Bush doesn't pop that one out.
Because they're first and goal, they're inside the red zone in that situation if you don't pop that ball out, and the way who knows what the way the Steelers offense would have gone. From that point forward there. So that was a big play. Trying to think. I thought overall they did okay against Mixon. Look, Mixon's paid I'm surprised they didn't switch to Andy Dalton in that game. I really thought, hey, if they had, they would have had probably a little bit better chance to win that game.
Yeah, well, they're switching to Dalton now for some reason. He's now the starter again.
Right. I think Zach Taylor made a tactical mistake there. By not going to Dalton later in that game there.
The note I have is in the article I wrote, I tweeted this out yesterday, was with Minkah Fitzpatrick, and everyone talks about the interceptions and the big plays, the fumble recovery that he had, and that's all important. That's why you trade a first-round pick for him. But, man, Dave, this guy is a complete player. My favorite play of this year was a 2-yard gain by Joe Mixon where Fitzpatrick, rare time he's in the box, he takes on the pulling center, cuts his legs down to help free up Devin Bush and get the run stop, and then gets back on his feet to get in on the tackle. I mean, this is a guy that's bought into this system, this scheme, all the concerns about Miami and him not wanting to play this spot or that spot or not being happy with the system, not a concern in Pittsburgh. So, again, just how complete of a guy he is. He's a solid tackler. He's physical. There's 1-2. There's effort. There's desire. He's got a motor. I mean, it's just he's really a complete player. And, again, a second-year guy that's, 23 years old. This guy's going to continue to get better. Just a special player.
He's already got a couple of stuffs too, So and that's something you don't really see a lot of times with a deep middle of the field safety as well. I keep going back to, and look, you still got to get there. I know it's probably by design of what they did with Cooper Kupp, especially on that pass breakup in that play. But that guy's got some serious C to do. He and Mike Tomlin made a point. I think it was in the press conference. Maybe it was a week ago, talking about, look, it wasn't not only Devin Bush, but Minkah can get to where he's going in a hurry too. So just the overall speed, and at some point Devin Bush is going to overtake Mark Barron, and in the snap count. I don't know when that's going to happen.
I would prefer sooner than later. But.
Yeah, but I have a feeling it's going to stay kind of status quo right now.
Mm-hmm, probably. Why do you think that is? Do you think they just don't trust Bush to call the defense? I know Bush hasn't been sterling in cover. He's had his issues, but he's on paper better than Barron. He's a better athlete. He's a better cover guy.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think Keith believes what he says related to Barron.
What do you mean
related on the coverage thing that he rattled off the other day?
Well, he's still out there, so whether he believes it or not, they're putting that in the practice. So I would think that he believes it. I just don't know why he believes it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I don't really think he believes it. I think it's just more. It might be related to knowing it and calling it. But we have seen. We've seen still some communication issues. I mean, there are a lot. Look, when you can cover it up on the back end the way Minka has, but even so, you have the instances like you had with Mike Hilton in the game against the Browns the other day. I mean, you're still going to have you're still going to have those. There's no way around not having an occasional bust. Okay, right. You just hope that it doesn't end up in the end zone. Mm-hmm. Kind of thing there. So we'll see how the snap counts go moving forward there. I tell you one thing, they can't let Nick Chubb get off to a good start, because I mean that makes their passing game that much better. When their running game gets off to a good start.
Yeah, I want to see the run defense be a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more play to the whistle than it was last week. There were at least 2 runs, especially that one. The 9-yard run that Mixon had on the right side that should have been a 3-yard loss, and he runs through half the defense and gets a big play out of it. Chubb's going to be a similar guy that's going to fight to the whistle and can create and run around the entire field. So I want to see things be a little bit more tightened up, a little more fundamental against the Browns.
The rest of the defense, look, I think Nelson's playing good. I mean, I know Hayden had some hiccups in that game, but there were still some opportunities for him to make some plays in that game.
I look at the dime defense, and I talked about the change that they made a couple weeks ago because they had Cam Kelly on the field, and that just was a terrible idea. And we said, let's put Sutton and Hilton out there instead, and they did. And now we have the results of that a couple weeks in. And I have the article on Steelers Depot. You can check out the numbers. But every single number, completion percentage, yards per attempt, quarterback rating, first downs allowed, are all better with Sutton and Hilton on the field as opposed to Sutton and Kelly. So smart change in dime defense results are paying off.
And I don't think they've got to do a better job, I think, on 1st and 10 defense too. So what was the stat? Oh, and short yardage. Were you blown away to see that short yardage number the other day?
Which one?
The Steelers defense.
Oh yeah, well, they were what, last or 30 next to last with Carolina.
What did I say? There was one worse, right?
I think Carolina. I think they were 31st. Carolina was worse.
So that's another area in the third and short. Third and fourth with 3 or less yards to go. They got to get a little bit better in that area as well too. Right. And overall, against the run, there have been some instances. There have been a lot. How many 9-yard runs do you think have been against this defense this year?
Like specifically the number
9? The 9-yard run. It just feels like there's been a lot of those, right?
I'm gonna see where they rank here. There were at least 2 of them. I think Mixon had a pair of 9-yard runs.
But am I right? Does it feel like there's been a lot of 9-yard runs?
I didn't have that feeling. I'll be honest. I didn't wake up thinking they were a lot of 9-yard runs. But I'll see how right you are here with Pro Football Reference's gameplay finder.
It feels like there's been a lot of 9-yard runs this year.
Steelers have allowed 10 of them. That's around 10th in football. Kansas City's allowed 19. So, yeah, kind of half right.
What is that percentage-wise to overall runs, though?
I don't have those numbers on hand, so I couldn't tell you exactly where they're at. But it's above average, I would say.
And are all those by? Let's see. Jackson had probably one of those. I seem to remember. How many of those have been by running backs, and how many of those have been by quarterbacks?
Yeah,
feels like a lot of them have been by running backs.
All right, let me look here. Well, yeah, I would imagine. Joe Mixon has 3, Gurley has 2, Mark Walton with 1, Lamar Jackson 1, James White 1, Marlon Mack 1, and Mostert 1. So all but 1. 9 of the 10 were by running backs.
Yeah, just and how it feels like that's been the magic number when it comes to that. So seen enough of those.
Right. Other things for defense, Cam Hayward played great. As you said, Steven Nelson, I thought played a really lockdown game. Really impressed with him. He's been just steady, solid. Really, I thought he would be a feast or famine guy when they signed him because that's kind of what he was at Kansas City. 4 interceptions, but gave up a lot of big plays. Got picked on at times, but it's really been the opposite. He's just been a steady, consistent guy. Not a ton of splash, no picks this year, but a guy that just seems really reliable and dependable. And Hayden and Nelson are some of the best run-stopping corners in the NFL.
For a guy that was the highest targeted cornerback in the league last year, there was a lot of angst about how Steven Nelson would do because of that. But
I always thought that was a bit skewed because no one threw more against any defense in the Chiefs last year, and he covered their number one guy, so it just seemed logical that they would throw at Steven Nelson a lot.
And he's held up well, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been fantastic.
The thing, and I go back to, he was a guy I really liked that year coming out of the draft. Just had that very physical kind of guy too, a guy that's not afraid of contact there. So I wasn't surprised to see him circle back around. Like he did. Mike Hilton continues to be kind of a bulldog against the run. But if there's a pound for pound cornerback versus the play against the run, it's him.
Yeah, pound for pound, he is the toughest player on the Steelers defense. Tougher than anybody.
Let's see, what else do we have? Watt being Watt, Dupree like that little move of his to get that. And then look, the biggest thing too, they're getting them strip sacks, man.
Mm-hmm.
And they need them. Sacks aren't enough right now. You got to get the football out, and they've been doing that. So you continue hope to see that. They're going to need a turnover or two in this game against Cleveland. I don't think there's any two ways about it there. And I think there were a couple. Wasn't there at least one interception maybe that they should have had in this game against Cincinnati?
Yeah, Hayden dropped the play after that breakup. We had really back-to-back breakups. That either of those could have been picks, but the second one especially should have been an interception.
So look, we've talked most of the season. If the Steelers are going to do anything, make any noise, it's going to be because of their defense, and you just continue to wonder what's going to happen in those games where they don't get that turnover. Okay, I have no doubt that they're going to be able to get the sacks here and there. I feel like they're going to be able to get pressure against Cleveland and all, but what's going to happen in another game when they don't get the turnover? The offense has got to pick up the slack in those situations. I don't care if it's short. I don't care how you get to short field, whether it be by special teams or what have you. You got to make sure if you got a 65 or shorter field, you got to bury at least one touchdown on one of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the defense, I have confidence they'll keep scores down, that they're not going to get gashed against the run, that they are going to get pressure. But if they can't get the takeaways, which aren't always a given in every single game, it's going to be hard for this team to win. And that's the weak spot for this team because they are so overly reliant on the big splash play defensively.
Look, they got a 5.1 adjusted net yards per passing attempt number right now defensively. That's good enough. All right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it should be for most teams. Unfortunately, with the way this offense is, that's not good enough.
Right. You just need to have it counterbalanced. Here, right. You want a positive differential in this thing, and they obviously don't have that right now.
What is their offensive number? Has it stayed about the same?
Let me see here. I'll get that for you real quick.
Because I know you talked about the importance of having a positive number there.
And you normally want that number at least 6, man. At least.
I know they're not at 6 right now. I'd be surprised if they were at 4.5.
I mean, you want that number at least 6. It is 5.0.
Okay.
So you got it right there with your defense. So yeah, look. This is a time of year when I look at those numbers. I want to see a defensive number under 6. And then I want to see a differential number of a +1 or more. So in other words, in this instance, you would hope to see a offensive number of like a 6.1.
Right.
And they don't have that, and that's kind of why we're dealing with. Well, what are they? Kind. So, and also look, another thing that I read a lot into that we never could see Mason get to the point there is we saw Mason's adjusted or average intended yards per attempt number climb, which we had hoped to see, but we just have not seen his completed average air yards number climb. So what you've had is you've had this big hole in there. I don't have to see a quarterback have a 10-yard average intended air number if his completed yard number is 4.1. Mm-hmm. I'd much rather see like a 6 and a 6. Along those lines. So that's something that we'll be tracking closely when we move forward here with Devlin Hodges in that number. Now, because of the sample size of games, obviously it's going to take a couple of, when it comes to the adjusted net yards, it's going to include him not getting sacked. It's going to include him not throwing interceptions. But even so, I don't know how much time there is to move this number from the 5.0 to a good number. So basically what I think you have to do when you're looking at that stat now is reset it.
Right.
And let's see what the number is. What is it with what we're dealing with, these set of running backs, this set of wide receivers, and this quarterback here moving forward. I really think that's going to be the best way to gauge that because of all the moving pieces you've had here.
Yeah, I agree. The aggregate number doesn't matter so much with Duck under center. Now you kind of reset this thing and see what he can do and what number they can produce with a Hodges-led offense. So I agree. What you want to see that number hit 6 under Hodges, though.
Look, if you come out of this game with a win, and you come out of it with the Steelers defense holding, putting up a 5.0 just individual game adjusted net yards number there, and you come out of the game with Devlin Hodges putting up a 6, you're gonna have to be pretty optimistic at that point.
Mm-hmm. It's a start, at least better than what it's been. So
because after that you get Arizona, which is a little bit different quarterback that you deal with. I still don't know what we're dealing with the Bills. Mm-hmm. And then you get the Jets, and then obviously you close out against the Ravens, and we'll see what the Ravens are playing for at that point.
Right. All right, Dave, anything else with all 22? I want to talk about special teams briefly, but if you had anything, I'll let you mention it.
Have at Danny Smith and the boys.
Yeah, again, I think Tom made the point that they didn't get splashed on special teams, but there was just a lot of substance, a lot of consistent, steady play. Johnny Holton had a good game. Justin Lane, I thought, did well as both a gunner and a jammer. Although it is funny, when you watch Holton versus Lane, I thought both did well as gunners, but just how much faster Johnny Holton is, how much more ground he covers, and to compare that to a Justin Lane. So it's just kind of funny to kind of check that one out. And then Boz and Barry continue to be excellent this season. Both guys having strong seasons. Obviously a bounce back year for Boswell and a career year for Jordan Berry. Jordan Berry's net is almost at 42, which I consider an elite number. It's really risen. It would be his highest net of his career. Now, granted, we got to get into December and the really bad weather. You haven't had any terrible weather games yet. That's going to naturally, tamp those numbers down. But I thought both guys have just been superb.
Now, I have attacked the old kind of maximum possible kind of punting yards in the past before when it comes to Barry, and how sometimes I don't think his numbers in the past have been as bad, especially his gross numbers, because obviously if you don't cover it and a guy busts one, that's going to affect your net.
Mm-hmm.
Now a lot of times too, we're playing the guessing game, not knowing directional kicking, hang time and stuff like that. Was he told to kick it a mile in the air and sacrifice distance? And also, I guess the big point what I'm trying to say is, in past, Ben's been pretty good at least shortening the field himself. Mm-hmm. When you have Ben under center, so a lot of times you don't have 60 yards to punt the football.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you punt it 60 yards, it's going in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm getting at here, and one thing I plan on looking at once the season's over is Jordan Berry's had a lot of long fields to work with this year.
Right, he has. But again, the average has been great. He's been consistent. There hasn't been any JV type punts that we had. Tomlin always talking about, junior varsity punts. None of that's been a concern this year. He's got a really good net, 60 yards against the Bengals. And again, just the overall net, which is not just a Barry stat, but is a unit stat, it's taken a big step forward compared to last year, which is really, really big because Barry's on the Steelers are on pace for their best net punting and maybe ever, but certainly in a long time.
I just get so jealous when I see these returns go out to midfield, Alex. You know?
I know. Steelers averaging 17.9 yards per kick. If that number holds, it will be their third worst kick return average since the merger. So, yeah, not good.
Maybe maybe that ball will be a little bit harder to kick this weekend. Maybe Kerrith Whyte can get a few runs at this thing.
Yeah, they can't block it to save their lives. I got no trust in that group. Take a knee. Let it roll in the end zone. I think if it rolls in the end zone, it's an automatic touchback still. So let that. I just wouldn't even try.
Catch it and run straight. That's my special teams coaching right now.
And Deontay Johnson's still making me nervous back there, even going through the all-22. His body language on some punts were like, Switzer was really good at being able to fake the fair catch. If he knew it was going to land somewhere inside the 5, he would put his toes at the 10 and pretend like he was about to catch it just to get all the gunners focused on him so the ball could bounce. Johnson doesn't do that well. His posture overall, securing punts, just makes me nervous. I feel like he's going to put one on the ground here at some point, and that could really cost his team.
You point out Lanham, the job they did as jammers on that other side. What about the one on the other side?
Right.
They took that kid's. What did they do to that kid?
Shook his lunch money.
Did they find him?
Yeah, that was Johnny Holton and Cam Kelly on the gunner there, and the gunner.
Who was the gunner on that one? Do you know?
No, I don't know. I didn't look at the Bengals player, but that was Holton and Kelly. They did a great job.
Yeah, that poor kid. They took his wallet and everything.
But yeah. So the special teams is. I know that the kick return game has been abysmal, and that's the number that gets looked at by fans because it's the one that is the easiest to look at, and it's got to get better. I've been very critical of that. I've been written about that repeatedly this year, but. Beyond that, the rest of the special teams are playing pretty well. I want to see Danny Smith go after a punt. He hasn't done a punt rush in a while. I don't know why. I want him to go after and attack one.
I don't know. I hope he takes the bubble gum out of his mouth before he does that. You don't want to swallow that big. But yeah,
I don't know
look,
if he's capable of that. That's how big that wad of gum is.
We're due for a Tyler Matakavich dirty red pump block.
Right? Yeah, so you got to pick up Rosie Nix. They have not rushed them as hard this year, and maybe that's just a situational thing. But I want to see him go after one.
We are long overdue for one of those. We're long overdue for get a return up damn near midfield or whatnot as well too. Look, a lot, and Mike Tomlin hit on this, talking about how all the little things they have to do to help Devlin Hodges. In this game, defense, special, all of it. You're gonna have to be on your screws all the way around once again this week. This is a very winnable game. Heck, the last one was winnable. If you don't turn the football over, I mean, and I'm excited to see maybe what this combination of Benny Snell and Kerrith Whyte maybe can provide in this rematch here.
I am too. All right, Dave. Anything else from the All-22, or do you want to start? Wrapping up the show. Yeah,
let's talk about Dave at Goody's Original Popcorn. How about that?
All right, sounds good. Hit me.
I've got a $25 a week popcorn habit, and I'm not ashamed of it. And if you try some of Goody's, that's GOODYS Original Popcorn out of Las Vegas here, you will understand why I have that $25 addiction. Gluten-free, non-GMO seeds, 100% coconut oil, non-trans fat cheese. I don't know what all that means, Alex, but I know the popcorn is out of this world. He's got a menu that'll knock your socks off too, right around the holidays as well too. Read off a couple of flavors here: extra butter, cheese, spicy buffalo, which I can't get enough of, man. That will light you up. Make sure you have a glass of a cold drink next to you when you're eating that. The jalapeno cheddar I've not had yet. The white cheddar. I'm not a big salt and vinegar guy, but he's got that. He's got dill pickle, loaded baked potato, pizza flavored popcorn, chili lime. He's also got the kettle corn, the candy coated ones as well too. The Fruity Loops. I always get a bag of the Fruity Loops, and I always get a couple of bags of the caramel. His caramel popcorn really, really is good. He's got Sour Nerds as well too. I'm not a big Sour Nerds fan, but he's got that, and it tastes just like the candy does as well too. So look, this is a small business here in Las Vegas. Dave is a good guy, just getting things branching out more into the online business. I know we got word from Dave last week that he got an order from Afghanistan from one of the,
Wow.
I think from one of the troops over there. So God bless you guys over there. Stay safe. And Dave said he was excited. He couldn't believe the reach that we have. He gets a lot of the orders that he's actually have gotten have come from not in Pittsburgh, if you can imagine that. So where is our Pittsburgh listenership at? Show Dave that we got some listeners there as well. Once again, it's Dave. It's Goodies Original Popcorn. That's Goodies with a Y, GOODYS. You can go to the website goodieslv.com. He's giving free shipping right now. This is a perfect time of the year with the holidays coming up here to give popcorn, maybe as a gift for a few people on your list. He's got free shipping. Use promo code Steelers at checkout. Once again, we excited to have Dave and Goodies Original Popcorn as a sponsor of the podcast. We'll see what happens after this show and next Wednesday, see if we can get Dave to maybe re-up as a sponsor again. But make sure you get on that computer the next couple of weeks here and order up some of his delicious handcrafted popcorn.
Wholeheartedly agree, Dave. All right, let's get to some reader emails to close out the show.
All right, I haven't had a chance to look at many of those. Lou Munns writes in, thought I'd chime in with a radio update from Cleveland. I listened to the Browns presser this morning, and Freddie Kitchens sounded awful confident. How do you all feel about DeVaro Lawrence? He looked great during the preseason, and the Steelers are a man down on the line. I saw that and commented on Twitter. The Browns just waved him kind of. I don't think a lot of people saw it coming with them waving him, but I commented how funny it would be if the Steelers played a little gamemanship and claimed him off the waiver and get some intel out of him. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. I have not concentrated a lot on Lawrence's play, to be honest with you, Lou.
Yeah, I haven't either, but we'll see. They obviously only have 5 defensive linemen right now. They normally carry 6. We'll see what the path is forward. Yeah, Freddie Kitchens, I'm sure he's confident. Why wouldn't he be? The team's playing better. They beat Pittsburgh. They want to go in with a confident mentality, but Steelers are going to be confident too.
Evidently, he goes on to comment that the whole thing, the radio running in Cleveland as well too, is about how they weren't going to allow Myles Garrett jerseys in there, or security will be targeting fans with Browns colors on. Ray has
all debunked for the record.
All debunked. Ray has a whole different tone when talking about the Steelers on Cleveland radio than he does in Pittsburgh. He was on the same station after the trade for Minka, bemoaning what an idiotic move it was. Look, we're I don't know what these guys do on one radio station versus the other, but Alex and I try to stay pretty consistent. Here, and even when I get on the West Virginia radio, once a week, and I think Alex does a radio interview with in the Penn State area as well too. There every week, you're gonna find the same thing that we do on those as we do on this podcast as well here. But going to be an interesting game, Lou, and I hope Freddie Kitchens is a little bit too confident when it comes to that game.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It's a big one, though. And again, for the Steelers, the ultimate payback is not about any extra scrums. It's beating the Browns, ending their season, and advancing closer to the playoffs.
Jay Smith writes, and I understand AV grades out well in pass protection, but I'm more concerned about his run blocking because I've never thought he gets much of a push and seems to be on the ground too much for my liking. My question is, what's a fair market value, in your opinion, for Alejandro Villanueva? Look, I'll tell you this. A lot of people are hollering about Alejandro Villanueva's performance against the Browns. While it wasn't great, I don't think it was as bad as a lot of people are trying to make it out to be.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I think there's a bit of an overreaction, but it was not one of his better performances. I mean, he gave up 1 sack, he was the one that allowed the pressure on the intentional grounding. There's a couple other plays that weren't great from him, so it was by not even close to one of his best performances of his career.
And he's not going to be one of those guys out in space in the run game. As far as the point of attack goes, I haven't seen very many deficiencies when it comes to that. Obviously, I think he's a better pass protector than he is a run blocker.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not even about out in space, but even in tight, leverage is going to be an issue. Pad level is always going to be an issue for a guy that's 6'9". He's obviously a much better pass protector and has his calling card than a run blocker. So point taken. But again, you want a left tackle to pass protect. That's got to be a central responsibility, more so than run blocking.
I think how many sacks do you have him down for this year? I mean, yeah, you're probably going to give him one for in that game, but I think even Pro Football Focus rightly put the sack on that one on Devlin Hodges.
Yeah, we just have to agree to disagree on that one, but I'm gonna have to go back. I haven't written my sack breakdown for this week yet. Coming into the Bengals game, I had Villanova. It was actually a good number. I had him down for just 2 sacks allowed this season. I don't know what he had. I think he gave up 4.5 last year, so coming around the same number, which is why I say that when you look at the season as a whole, it is better than what people are trying to make it out to be.
I think people too forget some of the left tackle. I mean, look, Max Starks and all like that. Bless his heart, but I
Jonathan
think,
Scott.
Jonathan Scott. I think Villanueva is the best left tackle of this team, and as knock on wood, stayed healthy as well too. Best left tackle this team has seen for a while. So I don't know why everybody's wanting to try to run him off. It seems like. What is his market value? Let's see. He's winding down a contract that's averaging $6 million a year. The top paid tackle in the league right now is Taylor Lewan at $16 million a year. At least $10 million, at least. And I think that might be a slap in the face for Villanueva.
Yeah, the number that came to mind, and again, it's not just about how good you are. It's always about trying to jump the next guy and where the market's going. I'm thinking $12 million per year, which puts him right about top 10 in football and tackles.
I think that's even shooting them some, especially what you've gotten them for the last couple of years. I know, but that's all water under the bridge, though. But
all right, what number would you?
13.5, I think, is a starting point with him.
Okay.
Will he? I tell you what, I would be angry if they asked me to play for $5 million this year, or this next year.
Well, I mean, it's not that they're asking. I mean, it's what his contract is. He has to negotiate. It's not like he's going to be a free agent and that's what they're offering. But yeah, I mean, I understand his desire to want to get paid more. He deserves to get paid more.
And he's what is he, 31? I mean, this is the last. He's got to get that last bite of the apple right now.
Right.
So I'm not going to be surprised if that number comes in, north of 13. I think that's his market value. I think it's fair.
Yeah, I think it's fair too. But again, the Steelers, if they don't want to do anything, they don't have to do anything. It's not like Villanova was walking after this season.
Will you be surprised if they don't get him done?
I'm not sure. I really don't know which way that's going to go. It depends on the other moves and if that's going to save cap space, that's going to add cap space. Like we talked about before, it probably either doesn't move the needle or you lose some cap space to it. I really don't know how it's going to go, but if it does happen, it's not going to happen until summer, right before training camp.
Tinfoil hat time from G Car 95 writes in, "Hey David Alex, I thought that I wanted to run this by you. Is it fair to say that Coach Fichtner play calling in a way that suggests playing scared could possibly cause Mason struggles? All the talk of punts and not taking chances, in my opinion, could obliterate confidence. Maybe it's time for Fichtner to coach touchdowns and not punch. Just a thought I had. And thank you for your time. You guys are the best. I look forward to uploading. Always hate when it ends. Hope you guys have a good holiday and go Steelers. Good day, go Steelers. Thank you, G-Car. Look, he's got to pull the trigger. He's got to make some of these plays. I mean, Deontay, that last throw that Mason had the other day in that game, you got to have that. You know? You got to have some of these throws in the red zone that he's had. So there comes a time where, the quarterback's got to make the play, and he hasn't done that enough. And he's turned the football over 5 times in the last couple games. No, I'm not putting it all on. Now, has there been situations where you're scratching your head on some Fichtner play calls? Absolutely, there has been. I mean, I'll say this every week. There are 5 plays probably that I have circled that I my eyes tilted up on. And maybe even 7 by the time I go through the all 22 with some of the route combinations and field position related to such. But. The quarterback's got to make plays here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the large part of my thought is that, yeah, it comes down to the quarterback. But I think, and it's hard to say because we're not in the room, but I go back to what Rudolph had said a couple weeks ago after that Colts game where, he had that really strong throw on third down to Juju, goes to his hands, it gets picked off, and then he's talking about that later in the week and says, oh, I probably should have just, checked it down, and that's on me. And, Randy says we got to play field position and just punt the ball away. And I hear some of those things, and it makes me wonder, does he get in his own head? And does he overthink it? Because he clearly looks like a guy on tape that is overthinking and overanalyzing and not playing.
Well, I've said that right from the get-go with him. He tries too hard,
Right. You have, yep. But I guess the question is
and it's gotten worse.
Go ahead.
After that whole week following getting conked over the head and all like that. I mean, it's just, I guess, am I surprised what happened in Cleveland or in Cincinnati on the heels of all that what happened? No, I mean, we wondered how he was going to be able to rebound from that, and just everything that's been happening with him. And look, there's some big shoes he's trying to fill too, and the comparisons are going to be out there whether you like them or not about, he's not Ben Roethlisberger, he's not the next franchise quarterback, he deserved to be booed against the Dolphins and all like that. I mean, they're like it or not, this guy's got a stigma against him right now.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
From the majority of the fan base, and he's got the Landry Jones stigma already, and it's going to be hard to shake that. People are going to be on him every incompleted pass that he has moving forward here.
Right. No, I agree. And you've said it from the start about how he tries to be too perfect and how that probably ultimately hurts him more than it helps him. I guess the question is Fichtner putting an undue pressure or sending mixed messages to him? And I think there's at least some evidence of that.
Yeah, we'd have to listen to every bit of audio and contextualize all that.
Well, we have listened to everything Fichtner's ever said regarding Mason Rudolph and everything Rudolph said about Randy Fichtner. And again, I think about that comment in the Colts game, and I cringed at that one. I thought that was not the right takeaway from that play by Rudolph.
Have they babied these kids a little bit too much? Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know if babying. I don't know what the right word is. I feel like there's been some mixed messages sent, and I'm not going to pretend like that's all of Rudolph's problems. His problems are central to himself and his own issues, but has Fichtner maybe got something in his head that's making him press a little bit more or overthink it? I think that's possible.
Here's what I said, about 4 weeks ago. I said it feels like, and I don't know for sure, it feels like saying, look, you can push the ball down the field. You can push the ball down the field. Don't you dare throw a damn interception.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Don't you dare throw the damn interception. But go ahead and push the ball down the field. All right? But
and Fichtner has said both things.
And you can stay in the pocket there. You can stay, but don't get sacked.
Mm-hmm.
And don't turn the football over.
But be aggressive in the red zone. We got to convert in the red zone.
Right, but throw the football away. It's okay to throw the football away.
That's what I'm saying.
And I said that 4 weeks ago. People say, you just a Mason apologist. And someone even accused me yesterday on Twitter saying you've been nothing but negative towards Hodges. Have I been negative towards Hodges?
I don't think so.
I mean, have I treated the evaluation of Hodges any different? The thing that I wanted to make sure that I did right with Hodges is look at a large selection with him. And we have, and we'll see if we look at a little bit more. Has he? And I've said this. He after the game against the Rams, he's gone the wrong direction. And all you need to do is circle that one throw to Deontay. Look, they looked at that right after they came off the field they have instant access to that end zone, and they looked at that play. They probably thought, got to get this kid.
Mm-hmm.
This kid don't know whether he's coming or going right now.
Right, and I still think about the Browns game, that 4th and 1 miss to Johnny Holden as the play that will stick out to me above all else this year from Mason Rudolph.
And he's had situations look, if you go back and if you've watched as much tape as I watched of him at Oklahoma State, He's not making some of this. Now, look, the competition, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get it. And mostly ran, more of an RPO kind of up-tempo offense there. This guy's not making as quick of decisions as he did. And although he'll never going to be known as a extend-to-play kind of quarterback, there were situations where he had a lot better pocket presence where he felt the rush there. So he's trying to do so many different things at one time here that he's not doing anything.
And I think even from our outside point of view where it's difficult to know, I understand, I think it's fair to say that Fichtner has sent him some mixed messages. They can't be helping a situation. How much is it hurting him? Who knows? But I don't think it's helped him.
And he's trying to say and do all the right things and be an NFL quarterback.
Be perfect, as you said before.
In between during the week too, and everything like that.
Which is hard when you're accused of being a racist.
Look, right, and that on top of it. And look, I mean, is it something? Cry me a river. Is it something that he's got to deal with? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he might never bounce back from this ever.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they'll give him time to reset. Maybe he will. I still contend maybe him coming off the bench in that game against the Seahawks and not thinking about anything was probably, if you boil it down on a snap-by-snap basis, probably his best football that he's played.
Yeah, so just start Duck every game and then put Mason in after the first series.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, Alex.
No, I'm joking. I'm being sarcastic that might be the best mentality for him, just to surprise him.
But and I think that's kind of the differential with look. There's no pressure on Devlin Hodges to be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to say, well, there you go. The Steelers spent an undrafted draft pick on him. What a waste.
Yeah, he's playing with house money
when it comes to that. So, look, we'll see. And I think Mike Tomlin tactically, with his words at least, handled it the right way in his press conference on Tuesday there. So, he it's a wait and see now, and at least you have the option open now to go back if things go off the rails. But on the flip side, and as I said at the open here, if it's going to go bad in Cleveland, it needs to go all bad in Cleveland with Devlin.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to pull him unless something just disastrous happens or an injury. Obviously, I think they're going to give Devlin the entire game.
Shane Niederer writes in, "Hey, Dave and Alex, have quite the fantasy dilemma on my hand with my number 2 running back. I have Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, and Benny Snell Jr. on my team. And the Yinzer in me wants to start Benny, as he might be the only opportunity to do so for the rest of the season. Any chance he is a viable running back number 2 this week, or will the Steelers' running woes continue?" Here's the thing, Shay. I don't know if you get points per reception in there. Benny's probably not going to log a ton of receptions. Maybe 1, maybe 2 at most, and against the Browns. I still think there's going to be some mix of Samuels in there, and obviously I think you're going to get White. I guess it boils down to, do you think Benny Snell Jr. can get you a touchdown?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to start Mixon. I think if you're in a PPR league, you got to go Eckler. If you're in a non-PPR league, then yeah, go ahead and roll the dice on Snell.
If you feel that Benny Snell football can produce a Benny Snell football touchdown, that might be the difference between. I mean, look, you're putting Mixon in there, especially with Andy Dalton back, I think. So that's one of the guys there. So I think it comes down to a gut feeling whether or not you think Benny can get in the end zone versus Eckler there. But because I don't envision Benny having. Look, even though this past weekend I warned one of those fantasy experts on ESPN pumping Jalen Samuels this past week. Look, don't discount Benny Snell. I think even in a PPR, didn't Benny have more fantasy points than Jalen Samuels did this past week?
He probably did. I don't know the whole math, but yeah, I think Snell outproduced him in all formats.
All right, Smitty writes in, "I'm not sure if you guys have researched the successful run rates when we run out of the one wide receiver sets compared to 11 personnel. I really think we need to spread the field and use RPOs to keep the defense honest. Look, you're not going to get any pushback from me out of trying to see maybe an increase in a few of these RPOs moving forward here. Also, why do the coaches insist on using Holton as the lone wide receiver in heavy set? It makes no sense. I'll tell you, they're just trying to get that cover one look to see if they can get him up over the top there. I'd use any other wide receiver on the active roster before him. Holton should never see the field unless it's special teams. Your thoughts? Here's the thing. Usually you see them kind of do that when they're backed up in their own end zone as well, too. They're trying to get that one-on-one cover one look on the outside and try to win over the top there. The thing with Kane is he gives you another guy that you can play around, maybe with some straight line speed. So maybe this is the week that you see a little bit more, and maybe try to take another shot deep down the field with him over the top against some man coverage there. He wants to know. I'll have to look at those run rates when running out of one wide receiver sets.
Well, I looked at it just in terms of, this is a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, tight personnel, so 12, 22, 21 personnel versus 11 personnel, and they actually ran better out of heavier personnel than 11, which surprised me. So my thought of spreading it out, I think it has some value, but the numbers don't necessarily agree with me on that. It's for why the one receiver set stuff. I understand your point, but they like Holt for the deep threat, as you mentioned, Dave. That like his size, the vertical ability. Plus, it helps just create rotation too. It lets one of your other receivers who've been out there in 11 personnel get a rest for a play or two. They did this back even when you had AB and Juju and Martavis Bryant. You had DHB out there in one wide receiver set. So it's just speed threat, and then plus a way to create rotation and get a receiver a bit of a breather.
Let's see. What else do we have here?
I don't know. You hit me.
Let me see. I'm trying to find my place here. This is way too long. Jay Matheson. That's a long email there, brother. Too long to read. Zach Henning. If I told you at the beginning of the season that Duck Hodges would be the starting quarterback of the Steelers at some point, what would your reaction have been?
I would have said put this man in an insane asylum, because I just never could have expected that to be the case. Especially,
Zach, when he wasn't even on the 53-man roster to start with. Right. Kind of hard to envision all that's. Look, we got quite a movie script still going out there right now. Carl Natali writes in, I was wondering if you've seen enough of Duck Hodges to get a sense of his football IQ. Thank you for all the great work that you do. Sent from Carl Natali. Carl, look, the guy broke the division, the FBS records, right? I mean, this guy, FCS passer record, the old Steve McNair Alcorn State record. This guy knows his way around the football field. So, I don't have any, from what I've seen in the 40 pass attempts that he's had so far, there's been no inkling of me going, oh man, I wonder what if he knows what he's looking at there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're learning a lot more about him, and the sample size is going to tell us more over time, but I believe he's a pretty smart guy. You look at the very first snap he ever took, coming in off the bench against Baltimore, where he got literally no reps that week because he wasn't running scout team because they were doing stuff to prepare for Lamar Jackson, and he comes in, changes the protection, and throws a strike to Deontay Johnson. So I think he's had a pretty good baseline for football IQ. He's played a lot of football, which helps.
Yeah, I don't have, and look, he's he got the Bill Parcells 7 down.
Right. Yeah.
We'll see how big if that comes into play here in the final few games here. Tim Clark writes in, I'm a Steelers fan from Auckland, New Zealand. If you want to put another flag in your world map, there are people who listen to your show all the way down here. God bless you. New Zealand, Alex. We're popular in New Zealand. You keep talking about how you wish the All 22 came out earlier. I have the international version of Game Pass, and the coach's film is usually available 5 or 6 hours after the game finishes on Sunday, and the Thursday night game is up before the weekend. Maybe one of other international listeners can confirm, but it might be worth it to set up some kind of VPN if it gets you all 22 earlier.
I've tried.
I've tried that too. I saw this email right after it came in, and I jumped on my VPN. Now maybe I need to try it in New Zealand. I tried it, I think, in UK, and I didn't do it. Have you tried it in New Zealand?
I don't remember where I tried it. This was a while ago. I've heard that for iPad and tablet users, the coach's film actually comes up quicker than like laptop and desktop users for some reason. So there's another option. But yeah, Game Pass, it's a blessing and a curse, unfortunately. Usually a curse.
Trust me, I've owned a VPN for quite a while here. I will try it in New Zealand though. Jeff Berg writes in, Duck's bill shines brighter than Rudolph's nose. As a viewer of football for 40 years or so, I have to say that Duck quacks like a quarterback and Mason doesn't. I can't quite put my finger on it, and my diagnosis is certainly not clinical, but man, Mason just doesn't look right. His throwing motion never has looked right. When the ball leaves his hand, it just doesn't look good. When Duck slings it, it looks like a quarterback throwing the ball. The motion looks fluid, and natural looks like he's comfortable throwing the ball, while Mason looks like somebody who's trying to throw the ball, if that makes any sense. I know there's a lot to playing a position of quarterback, but you should look like you're supposed to be back there throwing the football. Mason just has not yet to look right back there. Preseason or regular season, he also show slow and clunky with his feet, and Duck looks mobile and yet again fluid with his motion. It just feels better with Duck in there. I'm not nervous with every drop back. Maybe that'll change. I don't know. I say Duck is the guy until he proves that he's not the guy. On another note, one of my brothers went to Cleveland game this weekend, and some quote-unquote fans had Mason Pinata, and people were hitting it with a Steelers helmet. Yeah, I saw that clip too. And during the game, fans were shouting vulgar stuff about Mason. Those are some terrible folks, and I can't believe there's people acting like that. And the Browns were playing the Dolphins. Look, nothing that I see out of humans anymore surprises me. I have reached that age.
Yeah, I'm with you.
As far as the other, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Charles Munger writes in, hey, I think Steelers should consider bringing Sean Davis back and even have him push Edmonds for playing time. I think Edmonds has shown to be a depth safety and not one worth stating. I know he's a first-round pick, but just like Hodges will be starting over Rudolph, on the field performance should dictate playing time. Your thoughts? Look, the main knock on Edmonds is he's not making plays. And that's a big part. But I don't view it as him being awful other than that.
Yeah, I agree. But you got to have splash plays. That's why you invest a first-round pick in him. But we don't know if Davis is even coming back this year, what his health status is. Plus, he's missed a lot of time. I don't expect that change to happen.
He has not done anything to make you feel like he was worthy of the first-round pick.
Right.
Of course, Sean Davis really hasn't done a lot to make you feel like he's worth the second-round pick.
Yeah. Edmonds has to create the splash plays. One career takeaway in almost 2 years of play, which, again, is pretty much a record low. In terms of the number of games he started versus the output, it's pretty rough.
One last one from Nicholas Gooden. Hope yins are well. What do you guys think of the coaches seeing Mark Barron that fans don't? I believe Bush and Vince are a better combo in every aspect than Barron and Bush. Could they just be trying to get their money's worth? I don't view this as we paid him X amount of dollars. We can't let that. They're going to put whoever out there gives them the best chance to win. No, I don't view them looking at it as we got to get our money's worth out of Barron. They obviously see something in him. Maybe it's from a defensive play calling aspect. Maybe it's from a setting, communicate. But even go back to during the off season there, they said Mark Barron's basically a mute when it comes to calling the defense there. So that's a little bit of a head scratcher when it comes to him calling the defense. But maybe he all of a sudden found a voice or whatnot. I don't know, because we don't hear that. We don't hear that mic'd up aspect of it. There have been some communication issues, but obviously not as many. They seem to be communicating good around him. I don't know if it's more of a coverage issue or what, but regardless, here's the thing: I think you've got 5 more games of Mark Barron in a Steelers uniform.
Well, if they like him this much, I'm not 100% sure. I think that it's more likely he's gone. I don't know. I feel like the investment plays some sort of role into it, only because nothing else makes sense. No other reason makes sense.
Shame on them if they're taking that philosophy.
Yeah, but again, I think Vince is just as good as coverage guy and a more vocal communicator, and Bush is obviously a more athletic player who, yes, had his issues in coverage, but Mark Barron is not a strength there, and and it's not like he's this great communicator either from the things that we know, and Vince Williams is obviously capable of that. So I just haven't come up with a good enough explanation as to why they play him as much as they do.
That was a nicely timed sack by him on a free runner.
The other day. Sunday wasn't terrible for him against the run. He's okay. He's able to blitz more, and he's had his moments there. It's not been the worst game ever. Didn't happen Sunday, but in coverage, you got called for holding and DPI on the same play. And you called me best cover guy.
Yeah, he had his issues, especially San Francisco, and they've been sporadic throughout where he's had some holds on him here. So it just isn't him getting more used to things. That's who he is. At this point, maybe we'll shame him into having a MVP game this week or whatnot. So. Christopher Schrader writes in, defensive MVP or defensive rookie question. Thanks for all you guys do. I'm a hardcore listener. You guys are the absolute best in the business when it comes to Steelers news and information. Thank you, Christopher. With our defensive guys playing at such a high level, is there any chance of our defensive players getting some recognition? Offensive defensive player of the year with Devin defensive rookie of the year. As long as that that Bosa kid stays healthy, it's going to be hard for Devin to overtake him. As far as defensive player of the year, look, we'll see how the final 5 games play out for Watt and Minka. I would think it would tend to go more to a guy that gets after the quarterback, having the better chance, i.e. Watt, than it would Minka. But I think Watt has a decent chance. Even so, I think as I sit here right now, I'd be surprised if he won it.
Yeah, I think they'd be in a conversation. Minka's still tied. I think either tied or straight up leading the league in interceptions with 5. Trivia question on the show today. I was looking this up last night. Who was the last Steeler to lead the league in interceptions or tie for it? Last Steeler to do it.
It wasn't Washington, was it?
Dwayne Washington?
Yeah.
No, or Sam Washington. No, neither of those guys.
All right.
Wasn't Troy? I thought Troy did it once. Did not do it.
I'm drawing a blank here.
Mel Blount, 1975 with 11. So Minka's able to keep this up and have at least a tie. Be the first one to do it in a long, long time.
Boy, if he ends up getting 11,
yeah, I don't think he's getting 11.
Yeah,
but he might the league in interceptions, which is the stat I'm looking.
Yeah, at. I don't think. Oh, you said leading the league.
Yeah, leading the league in
okay.
interceptions. Yeah,
okay.
Not 11, but we'll see.
That was a lot different game back then.
Yeah, for sure. But
all right. What else? What else do you have?
That's all. I think we get out of here just under the 2-hour mark.
All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on. Did you get that picture real quick in your so you can say I was right at the 11-yard mark?
No, it's not the 11-yard mark.
Look at the side judge over there where the snap is.
But the quarterback doesn't. He's lined up a yard behind the center, so you got to start from where the quarterback's at, not where the center's at, because there's a yard of difference, and it's 9 yards.
Oh, you're backpedaling on me. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex Kozora on the Twitter machine at Alex Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. You can email the show theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. When's the next Bachelor or Bachelorette episode?
They are in break right now, but Pilot Pete will be back in January.
I don't even know what that means. Let's see. You can donate to the show by going to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. And if you'd like an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, you can go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar for $25 for 1 calendar year. You can have an ad-free version of the site. That's been pretty popular with our readership as well too. So until Friday, we hope to have our buddy Scott Petrak back talking about Cleveland Browns preview with the Steelers. And until then, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.